And you're already seeing, I think, over this issue of Israel, a very ugly blow up between young conservatives and old conservatives. And the old conservatives don't want to change. And the young conservatives don't want to hear values preached at them that haven't worked for them.
All right, joining me now for more insight on what the results of yesterday's election have to say is Mark Mitchell, head pollster at Rasmussen Reports. Mark, welcome back to Washington Watch. I'm sure you had a late night last night and have been combing through the numbers. Let's start in the race in New York City. Your takeaways from that?
I'm not surprised by the outcome. The polling was actually pretty good in New York. This is what New Yorkers want. New York has a lot of foreign-born voters. It's got a lot of Democrats, very few Republicans, and nobody dropped out of the race. And the polling exactly said what happened, which is Mamdani's going to win. This is what they want. He's a Democrat socialist. This is the new face of their party. Immediately coming out there and sort of changing his tone and cozying up to Alex Soros. And, I don't know where it's going to go. My advice for the Trump administration, though, is don't get involved in New York. Don't make him a martyr. And maybe red states can start secretly cozying up to corporates and trying to poach their corporate headquarters. But, I guess we're going to see. What does New York let a Democrat socialist, probably Trojan horse communist, do in New York City?
Does that stay contained to New York in the Democratic Party, or does it spread?
Oh, not at all. The idea of a Democrat socialist is very popular with voters under 40. It's even pretty popular with Republicans under 40. They think the system has failed, and they're looking for strong, aggressive actions. They want a systemic change in the economy. Even the ones that are Trump supporters are really, really willing to see things like income caps and excess wealth distribution executed. And so I think that they gave Trump a chance, because it's probably better than changing to a socialist economy. But unfortunately, right now, we don't have a level of aggressive economic populism that I think these people are craving. And we're going to see a youth uprising. And right now, the people with the most authentic answer for them is the Democrat socialist. It's going to be the face of the party. It's going to be like the new Obama, and I think Republicans in their current state are hopelessly outclassed and have absolutely no answer for it.
So let me ask you, this is kind of an economic question, Mark, but the infrastructure there in New York City, how long can it sustain these socialistic policies that Mamdani has been putting forward before the curtain is pulled back and people realize that this is not the way forward?
I guess we'll see. I think if the Democrats get in charge of the country nationally, we'll probably see things. The Biden administration maybe looks like a kid show. I think New York, though, the question is, well, they have a city council. It's probably got a lot of Democrat socialists on it. Are there going to be any governance or moderation or any kind of people pushing back on what he wants to do? Probably what's in their best interest is to not rock the boat at all. And automatically you see people who are trying to get this guy out, like Bill Ackman, I think actually funded a lot of money trying to prevent him from winning, immediately sucking up to him. So I really have no idea where it's going to go. But yeah, it's the trial balloon. We're going to see what Democrat socialism in the new wave of the Democrat Party. The Bill Clinton pragmatic centrist is totally dead now. Yeah. And we'll have to see what the Republicans become.
Yeah, I think it's good advice just to leave him alone and let him implode on his own so that he can't become a political martyr. Let's talk bigger picture, 30,000 feet, well, actually maybe more granular. How much did the local issues drive turnout and intensity in this election versus kind of the national anti-Trump?
I think not at all. We polled New Jersey, and again, I had Jack losing by 6, but it was over 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. It was the beginning of the government shutdown, and Trump's numbers hadn't really imploded yet, and we didn't see the Ouroboros of the right eating itself over the last 2 weeks. And so I think that I probably would have found him doing even worse, and so I think we did a pretty decent job. In the internals, in the polling, what I saw was basically what I would expect blue state, suburban, liberalish kind of leaning people for issue set. They care about rising prices. They, property taxes are a really big thing in New Jersey, and yet they didn't really trust the Republican Party on economic issues. And Jack Ciattarelli did worse than Donald Trump did because we had a recall vote question in there. And so I think that they don't see a Republican solution to their problems. I think that they just think that that's the way the national economy works. And if you look at the turnout picture, I think it tells you very clearly that the Democrats were inflamed and they turned out big. So if you compare Jack Ciattarelli's turnout to Trump's turnout in 2024, Jack Ciattarelli got less than 1.4 million votes, which is better than he did in 21, but it's nowhere near the 2 million that Trump got. And Mikey Sherrill got like 90% of Kamala Harris votes. So we're talking 90% to 70%. Basically, what it comes down to is the reason Trump did so well is because he picked up all these crossover Democrats, all these independents willing to give Trump a chance because they want major change. And those people, the independents, did not turn out. I think when we look at exit polling, we're going to see the independents broke really hard towards Democrats, and they got all of their voters out. One of the reasons, I think, is because resist Trump, resist Trump, resist Trump. And I'm one of those people that thinks there's probably something going on with the machines and going on with mail-in ballots and stuff like that. So I think that's some of it, but yeah.
Is part of it then, I mean, it sounds like the pendulum swung back. What benefited Republicans in 2 years ago, or I mean a year ago, now benefited Democrats. Dissatisfaction among voters.
Well, I think that they are the high propensity party now. They have a very well-honed get out the vote machine. They have iron-fisted control over all of these sort of blue city voting centers. And the Republican parties in this state are kind of like clown shoe, like they're just not really doing all the things that you need. I think New Jersey, again, I live in New Jersey, and it was closer, so I'm using that more than Virginia. Everybody thought that Scott Presler was just going to save them here. And it's like, okay, Jack Ciattarelli ran a decent campaign, but he ran as a Republican. And so he didn't get these independent voters that gave Trump a chance. Now, I hesitate to make it all about the national picture, but I have a lot of polling on the national picture. And independents, most of my polling in the fall last year went to Trump nationally by a couple points. And then when he started his administration, and you know, that changes over time, but when he started his administration, we were seeing numbers of net approval among independents where he was like, you know, underwater a few points, like pretty decent. Well, what happened is those numbers sort of dropped steadily and then plunged back in July. And what happened in July, you know, three things happened right in a row. You had the United States getting involved in Iran. Then you had the one big beautiful bill, which we did not stick the landing. I'll tell you that right now. And then you had this Epstein thing. And all of a sudden, independent approval of Trump is negative 20. Now, it recovered a little bit, and then it plunged about a week and a half ago, same kind of thing. Trump's overseas. The government shut down. The Republicans don't have an answer. Everybody's wondering, like, what's going on? Is there going to be any action? And his numbers got down to negative 27 among independents. That was basically election day. And so the national picture for Jack Ciattarelli was Trump made independents mad nationally. And then also independents didn't turn out for Jack Ciattarelli. Same thing in Virginia. I think it's the same picture. She underperformed the polls, Winsome Sears. And I think we're going to see it's because independents didn't turn out. And so Republicans don't have a game. They don't have a strategy. They don't have a message. Their message is hitch a wagon to Donald Trump. And time and time and time again, they do not convert Donald Trump voters. Now, if they're going to want to try, I think that they're going to have to take sort of the centralized strategic approach. They're probably going to have to funnel new donor money into things that's like not buying influence, into actually building some kind of national infrastructure that operates very differently than the establishment Republican infrastructure. I don't even know what it looks like, but I would be the person polling for that kind of organization and telling them how not to lose on things like abortion, Christianity, economics. You just talked about Christianity worldview. They are failing hard. And there is nobody on the right, which is supposed to be the party of Christian values, that really cares about this thing. We just got a poll back yesterday. Christian ID is less than 60% for the first time in all of our polling history in the U.S. So what's being done about that? Pretty much nothing. And they're also getting their butts kicked on abortion. Nobody's come to me to understand the polling. And it's like, yeah, if you frame it as pro-choice, pro-life, you're going to lose with pro-life. But if you go after the abortions in the 6 to 9 month period, have a couple of carve-outs in there, that's an easy win. There's only about 25% of the population that wants late-term abortion. So again, when you look at these states, you look at these bluish areas, the Republican Party has no plan. They basically run whoever pulls the short straw. You know, I'm talking about places like Minnesota, Colorado. They're going to run a traditional Republican, even though Republicans in those states are craving a MAGA-type candidate. And then I poll for a MAGA-type candidate in those states, They can't get any money from the RNC. RNC is not going to spend money on them. Trump administration is not going to give them an endorsement because they're going to lose. So you take these states, and it's basically, it's dropped in Jack's lap. Like, he got, I guess, a little bit of help from the RNC, maybe late August, finally. But he's running his own campaign on his own platform. Absolutely no help, absolutely no turnout, absolutely no money being laundered from foreign governments through Act Blue, just dropped in their lap, into some machine that's been honed and perfected through the Action Network and all these other Arabella and whatever. Republicans don't have that, and they're going to keep losing until they get it, and also have a message that can fuel that system.
So basically, they've got to have something more than Donald Trump.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. And he's going to lose political capital soon. And you're already seeing, I think, over this issue of Israel, a very ugly blow up between young conservatives and old conservatives. And the old conservatives don't want to change. And the young conservatives don't want to hear values preached at them that haven't worked for them. And so somebody really gracefully needs to thread that needle. I think we've seen some of it out of J.D. Vance, but it has to be internalized in these organizations in a way that MAGA really was not. Like, MAGA did not change the RNC. It didn't change the national Republican infrastructure. It didn't really change any of the think tanks. Finally got a toehold in the Heritage Foundation, and they're going for that guy's scalp. So what are they doing?
Mark, we've got to leave it there for a conversation another day. A lot to talk about between now and next year's midterm election. Thanks so much for joining us.